Welcome to Bell Folks Stuff, an experimental podcast where I talk to interesting folks about really important stuff that they enjoy doing. Let's get started. Hey folks, it's time again for yet another episode of the Bell Folks Stuff podcast. And this time, I am absolutely not going to lie. Usually I lie and tell you it's evening when it's really day, but by God, it's daytime. Because this week, or it's not really even a week, because I kind of do these whenever the hell I feel like it. But today, I have Liore, and she's always been on the list in my head of people I wanted to talk to, and I kind of just sprung this on her, and she was gracious enough to be a victim. A guest.
Oh, now the truth comes out.
So hey, Liore.
Hello, Belle. How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah. So I'm really happy that you were available to record on this Good Friday, because this podcast is a really irregular schedule because I try and weave it in. Because honestly, with me doing one weekly recording session and doing a bunch of rating, I feel like I put my wife through a lot of trouble because of my stuff. So I try and weave this one in whenever I have a chance.
Yeah, well, this works out today. It's a gray Good Friday here in Seattle, but I have a big hot pot of coffee, so I can talk.
I just drank some coffee from my awesome skull mug.
Ooh, nice. I have a sweet Las Vegas Showgirls mug that is my favorite.
I had this Batman mug that was my all-time favorite mug ever. It was this big Batman mug with classic Batman on it. And I in the morning, I'm not functional. I'm really not even verbal before 9 o'clock. So I was making my coffee one day, and I went to grab the mug, and I guess I didn't have a good enough hold on it, and boom, it dropped on the kitchen floor. And, I screamed expletives, and my wife was still in bed, and she's like, "What's wrong? I dropped my mug."
I dropped the Batman mug. Now, you say you're not very verbal before 9 a.m., but don't you type a blog post every morning?
Okay, so part of the reason why the blog post in the morning works is because I probably people don't realize this about me, but I suffer from pretty crippling self-doubt about things I'm doing. And blogging in the morning is essentially a way of tricking myself into pushing the publish button because I'm too damn tired to think about it. There's a lot of times I'll get to work and I won't have a clue what I said. I will have to go read my blog post because I don't remember what I wrote.
And yet it comes out pretty good.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like these little demons inside my head are having fun with my blog post. But you yourself are a very accomplished blog author as well.
Well, thank you.
You may not keep my crazy schedule, but I have read your blogs for, years at this point.
It's been a long time now.
Yeah, so one of the games that I play on here is I've decided I'm going to start calling 6 Degrees of Belgast, because I always try and play this game of figuring out how I know the person that I'm talking to. And I kind of know exactly how I became aware of your existence.
Tell me.
So this is a weird one. I don't know what our thread of connection is, but during the early days of Google Plus, everyone was so excited for this network. And I think all of us were inviting anyone into our circles that even vaguely looked like a geek. Yes. And somehow you were posting on someone that I knew, and I'm like, she seems cool. Look at the profile. Yeah, she's into the same kinds of stuff we're all in. Let's invite her. Because Lord knows I try and smuggle everyone into my circles. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, from there, Twitter, maybe your blog.
Yeah, you joined us for a while in Rift, I think.
Yeah, that. I think that was the first serious interaction I had with you was when in the Rift Guild, and I was raiding with you guys.
Mm-hmm. The glory days of Rift.
Man, those were fun times. And then kind of Guild Wars 2 happened, and nobody played Rift anymore, and then nobody played Guild Wars 2 anymore.
And therein lies the MMO industry for the next few years. Yeah. But, we all seem to have settled down pretty well in Final Fantasy, and I think it might be your fault.
It is, in fact, my fault, I think, maybe.
I think GP owes you, a t-shirt or something.
Probably. Now, if we can just get some of the other cats to settle there as well, like if we can get Ara or Orpho to come join us.
I know, that would be great. Yeah, well, I smuggled Ellie and Arrow into the guild from my Cat Context podcast, so they're around. Although Ellie has like a 6-week-old baby at home, so he doesn't really play so much at the moment. But
baby does not equate to life. I mean, I've watched so many friends go through that, and it's always weird to be the one couple that doesn't have children or has no desire to ever have children.
Yes. Yeah, you gotta have to have a lot of patience, because your friends will disappear. I mean, that's just the way life works, and they disappear for a while because they have tiny, loud things to look after.
Well, and it's a life-changing thing on their side, but I don't think people really think about how big of a change it is for their friends that aren't having kids. Because, like, your friend goes from being this super interesting person to only ever being able to talk about kids' bodily functions. Like, overnight.
It's totally true. I know.
Like, that was my late 20s. Like, all of my friends started having kids, and, like, I was the odd person out. So I started hanging out with significantly older people.
Right. It's true. And then, it's like, well, did you watch the blah, blah, blah on the weekend? And they're like, no, I never will watch TV again for the next 3 years. Like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Well, so the weird thing, too, that I've seen happen over and over again is, like, one kid is okay. They can still be a human being and have one kid. But when they get that second kid, they completely disappear from life. They are all about the kids.
And then the nice thing is I'm a little bit older, and I'm starting to get to the point where my friends who were having kids in their early 20s are coming out of it now, and so they're rejoining the rest of us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to be like, hello, I haven't talked to you much in the last 15 years, but, hey, let's hang out again. So
yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to that territory, but, like, there was a period of time in our 20s when we were hanging out with a lot of empty nesters.
Yeah.
And going to the movies with them, and, it's like they could be our parents, but, they were cool. And
yeah. And, all of my friends are remarkably cool about this, but from other people who are not such good friends, and you get that kind of, well, it'll happen to you one day. And I'm like, no, it really won't. I don't want them. I'm good without, thanks.
Yeah, my wife has always said that teaching high school is the strongest form of birth control known to man.
Oh, yes.
So...
Yes, I can imagine so. I started out university fresh out of high school thinking that I'd be a high school teacher, English. And
wow.
A couple years later, I'm like, wait a second, I don't think I want to hang around with a high school student, so good on your wife.
Yeah, no, she teaches seniors mostly, and so by that time, they're starting to become human beings again. They've kind of waded through the swamp of hormones and are emerging from the outside. And honestly, like, she has it easy because not that she has it easy, but she has it easier because she teaches honors level classes. So
oh yeah, the good kids.
Yeah, she's got the good kids for the most part. But yeah, still it's like, it's Drama City. So
oh yeah, no, I remember being a 17-year-old, and I not for all the money in the world would I go back to that.
Yeah, like, I think I remember being 17, but I really don't remember being 17. Like, I am like evaluating things I did at 17 through the eyes of a 38-year-old, and no, I don't remember being 17.
Everything was really important, and probably the end of my life. That's what being 17 is all about.
Like, I think back now, and I can remember being in some very dangerous and sketchy parties and thinking nothing of it.
Oh, yeah. No, look, yeah, absolutely.
There's this one party I can recall going to, and I walk in, and a guy is cutting acid on the carpet. Like, he's just got big sheets of acid, and he's cutting them up at the carpet and putting them into little baggies. And I'm like, this should have been a sign that I should have turned around and gone the other way.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. No. Apparently my, 17-year-old head thought that was a good place to be.
Absolutely. Looking back and particularly being a young woman, I'm like, what was I thinking? Holy cow.
Yeah. How did I survive?
Exactly. But that's the joy of being young, though, is making stupid decisions.
And somehow surviving. Yeah.
It's true. And then we get older, so we can play video games.
Exactly. Yeah, so video games.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, like, it's been an interesting year for me, video game wise. How's it been for you? Like, you've just now joined the whole Final Fantasy 14 thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been weird for me because, like, I was really realizing, I don't know, a few weeks back that this is the longest I've been in any game since World of Warcraft.
Wow, that's awesome.
We came back in July, so we've been in the game for 8 months, something like that.
Wow. Well, I'm a bit of a serial monogamist when it comes to MMOs. I have one, and it's my true love at the time, and I don't want to see any other MMOs. But Final Fantasy, after Rift and Storm Legion wasn't that good, and I was kind of drifting around for, gosh, a good 18 months, really looking for a home. And it turns out Final Fantasy is the new home, and I don't know how that happened. I wasn't expecting it at all.
Well, and the weird thing about it is like the industry all of a sudden over the last couple of months realized, oh crap, this is a big deal now. Because there are all those articles that came out, I don't know, 2 months ago saying that Final Fantasy had topped 4 million subscribers. Mm-hmm. And everybody was just equal parts shocked and confused as to when did this happen.
I like the part on Aggro Chat when you were talking about that, and you're like, that's not accounts, that's subscribers.
Yeah, no, because originally when that came out, everybody was like, oh, so they're counting free-to-plays. And they're like, no, these are subscribers. These are active subscribers. I'm like, wow, when did this happen? This is a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's really like the sleeper hit.
Well, and it's such a great story, too, because how often does a game go from being lauded as one of the worst titles to come out, period, to being turned around to such a really enjoyable experience? And what kind of company dumps that kind of money in it to completely retrofit it and turn it into this new thing? And obviously the answer is Square, but
oh yeah, if you look at it on paper, it's a crazy gamble, and it paid off.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that it has been. I think honestly part of the big success, and I did not even realize this was such a big factor until I started really sinking into the culture here on Cactuar, the server I play on. But the console thing is huge. So many of these players are console players.
Oh, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
And it's weird because you can always tell a console player by the way they move, because on the console it is really easy to accelerate and decelerate while moving.
Okay.
So if you see somebody moving at a non-standard speed, chances are they're either a PC player with a controller, or more likely a console player.
Oh, interesting. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah, because the analog stick will actually accelerate your movement as you go. So it doesn't jump between walk and run. It kind of has a curve.
Right.
So apparently it's really a big deal, and this is, there's been other MMOs on consoles DC Universe Online, but I think this is the first really meaty MMO to be on a console and really be successful.
Well, I think too, being Square Enix, they've been so tied to Sony over the years that they already had a whole bunch of fans who had consoles, which helps a lot.
Well, and another big thing that I think only worked because of their closeness with Sony is the masterstroke that is having console players and PC players on the exact same servers. Because That has always been a big problem with console versions of games, is you're only playing with other console players or you're only playing with other PC players. You're not playing with everyone, and that's revolutionary. Even when Elder Scrolls Online launches their console port in June, it's going to be on its own walled-off server. And it will be a walled-off server for PlayStation 4 players and a walled-off server for Xbox One players. And that's frustrating to know that, okay, if I pick it up on the wrong platform, then I am stuck and I can't play with my friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a rare thing to have. Ellie bought the game on PC and then realized that it was going to be a lot better for playing while the little one was sleeping if he had it on console. So he just, bought a console version and can play a same character in our same free company. And it was just so handy.
Yeah, I like having I don't ever play it on my PS4, but I like having the license on the PS4 so that I can play it. If for whatever, like, I keep thinking at some point I will learn how to play it with a controller, and then I can play it on my Vita. Because how amazing would it be to be playing a real MMO like Final Fantasy XIV on a handheld?
Ooh. Plus, it would give me something to do with my Vita.
Yeah. My Vita is basically a remote screen for my PS4. I kind of feel bad about that, but
hey, that's reasonable. All I have in my Vita is basically, PlayStation 1 games.
I have Lumines. I have to have Lumines.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have Parasite Eve, good old classic JRPG.
Yeah, I've got I every time they have a sale on the PlayStation Store for the classic titles like that, I pick them up. So I've got Parasite Eve, I've got Wild Arms 1 and 2, I've got some Final Fantasies that I never end up playing. I just end up using a remote screen to my PS4.
Right, yeah, exactly. But isn't that just the nature of video games? We buy all these games, and then we don't play them.
I feel like we're video game hoarders.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. It's a good thing that they're digital, otherwise my house would be covered in video game boxes.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I stopped looking at the total number of Steam games I have because it's just depressing. Like, there's so many that I'll never play.
It's true. Although, in the last couple of years, I think there's been kind of a backlash on that almost. Like, I've seen a lot more people talk about playing their backlogs, and I know I've basically stopped buying games because I have so many that unless there's something new that I'm really, really excited about, it's like, say, City Skylines. Otherwise, I'm just not going to bother because, it'll be cheaper 6 months from now anyway.
Well, and unfortunately, like, I have stopped buying indie games at all. Because I know that I habitually buy Humble Bundles just because I feel like it gives me warm fuzzies to buy a Humble Bundle.
Right.
And I know eventually I'm going to get whatever indie game through that or through the PlayStation Plus subscription. Right.
It's total. I have Humble Bundles that I probably have never even looked at all the games in there, so I don't need any more.
Yeah, like we have a Google spreadsheet that the AgroChat folks share back and forth that is basically all of our excess Humble Bundle keys. That way, if any one of us ever wants to play one of these games, we just grab the... And I feel like I need to do more contests or something like that and give them away, because I feel bad that I have all these extra keys for some really nice games that are just go.
You can't actually give them away. They are so popular. Like every year for Extra Life, I try to give away games, and I go through like any extra keys I have through the year and whatnot, and no one wants them because they all already have them because they're like $5 in a bundle. It's crazy.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you can spend $6 and get 12 to 15 games, why wouldn't you?
Right, you'd be stupid not to buy that.
Man, Extra Life, that was an interesting thing.
Was that your first year?
That was, yeah, last year was my first year. Like, you do the full stream, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like, I think my wife would kill me if I tried to do the full 25 hours. Like, there would be a dead bell. That's it. I mean, my wife is loving and forgiving, but I think killing the entire weekend would be a step too far.
It's pretty fun, but I by the end of it, I mean, it's hard to believe you could ever become sick of playing video games, but about 12 or 13 hours into Extra Life, generally, 3 in the morning when people are going to bed, you hit that wall and you're like, I hate video games. I don't want to play them anymore. I want to go read a book.
So I was like the late night shift, and so I covered from whenever we stopped our podcast, I picked up at like, I don't know, 1 a.m. and then covered 4 hours. And it was cool for the first couple hours because there were people hanging out with me on TeamSpeak.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this dead spot where I had no one. Like, nobody was even on Twitch. Nobody was doing anything. It was just like, just me. And that's when it just started to suck.
Yeah, that gets intense. Fortunately, the last few years I've been able to do it at the same time as Ellie. So, we at least have each other to kind of bounce stuff off of. But
misery loves company.
Well, it's true. But usually, that when you get to that quiet time when everyone's gone to bed, it's like, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning. And, that's when you just pull up your hood and just play something nice and peaceful because there's no one around. You just got to get through it.
Well, and even what little I did of it, man, it takes its toll. So it was like 3-4 days before I was really normalized again.
It does. And, I'm not getting any younger, so staying up for 24 hours, I'm a little tired the next day.
Well, and I walk this really thin line. Like, I don't like sleep, apparently.
Right.
And I go to bed every night at midnight and get up pretty much every morning at 5 a.m. And that is how I function on, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And I feel like I have balanced it just to the point where I need this exact schedule or I just fall apart.
Right.
Because there's not much wiggle room in there. Like, I am on a razor's edge from just completely breaking down.
Right.
But that's what my body wants to do. So, Extra Life threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though, and I love just the sense of community. Because usually the vast majority of people are doing it on the same day, and everyone's supporting each other, and there's updates on Twitter all day, and it's so much fun to be a part of.
That's the part that was just insane to me. Like, when I set up the Alliance of Awesome team, I was expecting, we'd raise a couple $100, and jointly, I think we raised like $1,500. And it's just like, what the hell? Where did this come from? But I mean, we were all taking a couple hours apiece, so that was what, I don't know. I'm not good at math. A bunch of us, all raising money at the same time. So I think that probably helps instead of one person raising money.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a bit of a hustle to raise money on your own, and I found that the trick is to start doing it at least 6 weeks out. You got to get out there early and just keep, pushing it for the whole 6 weeks. I'm not really very comfortable with self-promotion. But when you're doing it, it's charity, it's for kids. I don't have a problem getting out there and getting in people's faces and being like, here's why you should donate money. So you got to it is like a long haul though.
Well, it kind of feels like the whole Girl Scout cookie thing. Like, after a certain point, everyone has already bought all the Girl Scout cookies they could ever want for the season, and screw you for asking me if I want Girl Scout cookies.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so you got to get in there before they've already donated all their money.
Yeah, I'm already at that point with Girl Scout cookies, because, like, every time I've gone to Walmart or Target or Sam's or basically anywhere, there has been a bevy of adorable little Girl Scouts trying to sell me cookies. And I feel like an asshole for walking past and saying no. But, like, there's 5 people at work selling Girl Scout cookies as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've never had a Girl Scout cookie.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah, I am that person who's never had a Girl Scout cookie.
Did they not have the Girl Scouts in Canada?
They do have them. I guess I just hate cookies. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah.
You hate cookies?
No, I don't. I just, I hate Girl Scouts. No, I don't hate that. I don't know what. My mom wouldn't let me join the Girl Scouts when I was a kid because she felt they were a paramilitary organization.
Really?
Yes, because, they all dressed alike and did things together, and she was like, no daughter of mine is joining this paramilitary Girl Scouts.
That's hilarious.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
so
like,
lingering.
I guess they're normal for me because I was a Boy Scout, and I wasn't just a Boy Scout, I was actually an Eagle Scout. Like, I made it all the way through, and I had this crazy project that I had to do on my own, where basically I built a computer lab.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that whole thing has always been just like so prevalent around here.
Maybe it's a Canadian thing. We're all kind of iconoclasts.
Maybe.
Stick it to the man!
The Canadian Girl Scouts have mismatched uniforms.
Yeah, that's right. We all do our own thing in Canadian Girl Scouts, but very politely.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
It's been funny since I moved to America, though. I have an American partner, and anytime I need someone to be rude, I just hand the phone to him. So, like, I'm talking to Comcast, and I'm like, okay, hang on a moment. You have to talk to my boyfriend now.
That's hilarious. Yeah, like, I can hang up on somebody without missing a beat, and I feel no remorse.
I can't. I'm too polite. Anytime I need anyone to be, rude or forceful, I have to get him on the phone.
Well, I guess my thing is, like, actually, see, I am not good at being rude. I just hang up.
Ah, yes.
Like, I just flat up, I click the ringer and I'm done. And if they call back, I click the ringer again and I'm done. My wife, on the other hand, she revels in tearing into people on the phone. Like, so if someone has wronged us in some way, or they've screwed up on billing or something like that, my wife is the person to deal with that.
Right. It's important to have someone in the relationship who can do that.
Yeah. It's important to be like to compliment each other. Like, I'm fine being the nice one, and then she can be the heavy.
Yeah, we're the good cops. That's fine. We'll be like, well, I don't want you to have to deal with my partner, but it may come to that.
So you've been in the States, so what, 6 months or so?
Almost, yeah, coming up on that.
Wow. So what was the craziest thing to get used to?
The money being all the same color, it was actually really weird and took me a while to get used to.
Really?
I was forever handing cabbies the wrong denomination and just trying to figure out, how much money do I have in my wallet? I don't know anymore. It's very confusing. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. And also, you guys have pennies, which was weird because we don't have pennies anymore.
I don't understand why we have pennies at all. No one uses them.
No.
Like literally, I can't tell you the last time I actually took a penny, because I don't know if in Seattle area they have this going on, but around here we have all these jars beside every cash register where people will dump their pennies.
And that to me indicates a design flaw if people are just dumping their pennies.
Yeah, the idea is that if you are close but not quite there, you just grab a few pennies and it makes up. It's kind of a pay it forward type system.
Right.
And that may just be an Oklahoma thing, because we're irrationally nice, which is weird considering all of our odd legislative choices. But so yeah, I dump my pennies in there habitually, and I've probably lost tons of money doing this, but I don't care because they're pennies.
Exactly. Yeah, pennies are useless. They just make your wallet really heavy. I don't understand. You guys need to get rid of those.
And honestly, at this point, I don't understand why things just don't get rounded to the nearest dollar. Because if you have less than $1, you really don't have any money. Nothing is cheaper than $1 unless it's an annoying 99.9999999 cents.
That's true. There's no more packs of gum for 25 cents.
No. So, I don't know. I honestly, I have cash so little of the time that it's not that big of a deal. The only time I ever deal with cash is our cleaners, because they don't take credit cards.
Right.
And I haven't had a checkbook in 6 years.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, that's one of the things about moving to the U.S. is at the moment I'm running all on cash because all my bank accounts are still in Canada.
Yeah.
So, thank goodness for ATM machines. But so I have all these dollar bills and pennies and weird cash things in my wallet that took a while to get used to. But Seattle is kind of becoming the new San Francisco, unfortunately. And one of the things that really struck me here is just I don't know, America has a really intense work ethic.
Really?
Well, yeah, you guys don't do as many days off as we do, and everyone's work 15 hours a day, and Canada's a little more laid back on that front.
Yeah, so I pretty much work straight 40s. I got to that point after working in what essentially was a startup, mm-hmm. and doing 60, 80-hour weeks. And yeah, I was done with that from that point on.
Yes, me.
But then again, if you consider all of the extracurricular things I do, like the blogs and the podcasts, I guess I technically am working a lot.
It's the second job. It's totally a second job. I know. And I keep adding on podcasts, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Jessica, stop this. Stop.
Because it's fun.
It is. It's so much fun. I love podcasts.
If I could realistically do it, I would seriously record a morning podcast. Every single morning, record a podcast.
Yeah.
That would be great. I would, and maybe it's because I don't know. I wonder if podcasts are a generational thing, because I have this massive respect for radio as a medium.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up listening to NPR and listening to other public radio sources.
Right.
So I have this great respect for radio, that it's this awesome medium that, and I guess maybe I'm just an auditory person. And podcasts are I feel like a little kid that has made a cardboard television and is pretending to do the news.
Yes. When I was a little kid, I used to like sit and get my parents, tape recorder and tape radio shows, and I would sing the music and do the words in between. And that's basically what podcasting is now.
Yeah, and like from the blogging standpoint, I can remember being a kid and making magazines, like making little, with crayon magazines, and that's what blogging feels like to me. Is I'm making little crappy magazines.
Oh yeah, no, I love all that stuff, and people who do it just for the love of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with doing it to get paid to do it. And I have ads on my site right now, but there's something. I love that authentic communication. People, they just love what they're talking about. They love podcasting, they love blogging, and it's so much fun.
Man, I feel like we could do an entire show about blogging, because it feels like every couple years someone announces that blogging is dead. Or even game blogging is dead. And yep. I don't know if you've ever been out to the Scree website, scre.ee. No, scr.ee. It's Scree is a blogger, and he's created basically this weird hashtagging system that keeps track of gamer blogs, and he has spent all this time going through everyone's blog rolls and compiling this master list of blogs, and he's got like a daily blog post thing where you can go out there and see everything that's been posted in the day that he knows of. Mm-hmm. And there are hundreds and hundreds of posts a week, things I didn't even know existed. So blogging is still very much alive. I feel like when one person goes dormant, two more pop up.
Yeah.
And that's, in part, that's why I love the newbie blogger initiative so much, is because, granted, like, we'll maybe have 50% retention from the people that start off in newbie blogger initiative, but that 50% that sticks around is awesome. Like, they're people, and they're just fleshing out our world.
Oh yeah, and we've got some cool people in our community through the newbie blogger initiative. I think Braxwolf was originally from the NBI, and now he runs the TGen podcast network. So that was a pretty good addition to the team.
Well, and the thing that I have trouble with, and I don't know if you get this too, but it floors me. Like, I don't understand it. Like, people will look at me like I'm some veteran with sage knowledge that they should glean from, and I don't feel like a veteran at all. Like, I don't feel like I know what the hell I'm doing at any given point.
Oh no, I just write things that make me happy.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. You shouldn't follow my lead.
No, Murph did the February blogger Valentine's, and he did a really, really lovely post about me. And a couple of people posted comments, and they were like, yeah, I was really kind of intimidated, but Liore's really nice. And I'm like, what? I'm just writing nonsense. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, like, somebody told me that when they went into a guild that I was leading, that they were super intimidated that I would be a certain way, and they thought I'd be like meaner somehow than I actually was. I'm like, I don't know where that's coming from, but okay.
Yeah, and as much as I really appreciate the idea that we're some sort of grand authority in the area of MMO blogging, we're really just a couple of folks who like writing stuff to our blog.
Well, and it's like, I feel like the funny thing is like, people think I have this pulse on the community, and I really don't. Most days I am barely keeping my own act together, let alone keeping track of what's going on. I just have a very thorough blog roll that I try and cycle through at least once a week and read everybody's posts. But so I feel like now's the time to segue towards something that happened that we've talked about a couple times that I find hilarious. So ages ago, Sip started doing what's his called? Is it Guild Chat or?
Shoot, I don't remember. It's
something chat or Global Chat, I think.
Yes.
I think it's Global Chat, yeah. So he started doing this awesome column in Massively, and now it's continued on to Massively OP, where he highlights people in the community. And it was great. And I know he's highlighted my post a lot of times. He's highlighted your post a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And then I was asked by MMO Games to put my own spin on something like that because they wanted more community involvement. And then you started doing one for MMORPG.com.
That's right.
And I started getting these weird comments like I should be in competition with you for some reason. Like there's a limited amount of community to go around. And it's the weirdest thing to me. Like, and I guess maybe to an outsider that hasn't been in our community for very long, they might look at us as, or not realize that we're pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
that's such a strange reaction. Like you said, it's not like we're going to run out of community. I mean, blogs are a renewable resource. There's always going to be more posted tomorrow. And any big site like that points back to the blog community in any aspect, that's great for everybody.
Well, and it's as being a blogger that has been highlighted by a much bigger site, it's a life-changing event when it happens. Like, I had a post picked up by WoW Insider, and like my daily readership went from like barely 100 to 4,000 a day for a while, thanks to this one post. And it was like, oh my god, what was this? And I had to figure. It's basically like this mini Slashdot effect. So if I could ever shine the light on somebody that's doing something awesome, hell yes. And it's not like the community is a zero-sum game anyway. Like I don't feel like I'm competing with other bloggers. I never have.
No, not at all. And I just don't really understand that attitude. It's definitely not a competition. And I think it's great that having all these blogs linked, and you do your article in a different way than I do my article, and we both do it in a different way than Sip does his article, and it's all good.
Yeah, and when the weird thing is like when I was going to do mine, I felt like I had to talk to Sip to make sure he was cool with me doing it, because it was kind of his. Like he did this thing first, and he was like, "Hell yeah, do it, go for it." And well, he didn't say "hell yeah" because he doesn't say things like that, but yeah, he was completely cool with that, and I don't feel like that's like he may have been the first person to do it, but like I think that now that floodgate's open, I'd love to see a column like that on every site.
Yeah, absolutely. Every site should have a column from it, and every big site should have someone from the community writing that column. I think that's totally awesome. I mean, it's not like we all ask each other if, you can write a column on Crowfall or something for this site. I mean, just write your content, be happy.
Well, and I kind of feel like we're filling in a vacuum.
Yeah.
That was left by MMO Melting Pot that is no longer functioning, because that's kind of what that site did. That was its thing, is it went out and found posts from the community, and that was its daily blog post. Mm-hmm. And now that site's no longer around, I mean, there's really not a source like that.
Yeah, exactly. And in the case of MMORPG.com, it was actually a column idea that they hadn't even considered. So I pitched them on that, and so it's not like, someone else lost the opportunity. I was like, hey, you guys need to do this. This is awesome. Start linking to more blogs.
Well, and honestly, I think that we've been living through this era of big AAA release after AAA release, and I think that era of MMOs is just over.
Yeah.
I feel like the $1 million budget well, there's still $1 million budgets, but the multi-million dollar budget AAA MMO thing is, we're not going to get many more of those, if at all. And instead, we're going to have these smaller, more niche games that really need a community to support them. So I feel like, if nothing else, this is a re-entrenching of the MMO community.
I agree. I think that the blogging and the whole MMO community, podcasts and videos and streams and all that, almost was more important, considered to be more important by developers a number of years ago, like right after WoW and before WoW. And it got really corporate for a while there with, those huge budgets. And now I think it's getting smaller again. And I think this kind of, community ground level, grassroots stuff is becoming way more important.
Well, and a weird thing is like when I ventured out into the non-WoW blogging space, it felt like a really cold realm. it didn't feel like we really had much of a cohesive community. We just had a bunch of slightly loosely related city-states.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I feel like, yeah, we have a thriving community of a bunch of different people doing their own thing and really happy to be doing it together. Whereas I don't see the same cohesive nature in the WoW blogosphere anymore.
It's been so long since I've actually read a WoW-centric blog. I'm not even sure what everyone's reading nowadays.
Well, and that was the struggle I had, is like so many of the WoW blogs I had in my blog roll just aren't around anymore. Mm-hmm. So I've had to, doing this column, I wanted to make sure I was trying to get representation from a lot of different games. So I had to go find a whole new set of WoW blogs to start reading. Because most of the old standbys were just not around. And I guess, I don't know when they dropped off, but I know my blog started off as a WoW blog, and I think a lot of blogs start off as a specific game blog, and then after a point you realize that may or may not be sustainable.
Oh yeah, I started as a WoW blog as well, and then stopped playing WoW, so I had to change that.
Well, and like, I actually tried twice. Like, I started off as a WoW blog, and then I started off as, like, okay, I'm going to be a Rift blog.
Ooh.
And I was actually, like, for a while, I was one of the official Rift fan sites that's listed on the Rift website. Like, they had a list from the community.
Right.
And that wasn't really sustainable either. Like, I realized I was going to play way too many games, so I just started making it about me instead. and I feel like that's a transition that I've seen a lot of people go through. Is like, you realize, okay, I may not always play this game, but I still want to write.
Yeah, and sometimes, you may not even be playing games. Like, we just write about our lives for some, not all the time, but occasionally. And I think that's cool.
Well, I feel like this is just my experience, but people that come to your blog for a specific game that you may be playing are the most fickle readers you can have. Because as soon, and I don't mean anything negative by that, I just mean they're coming to your blog for news about that thing that they're into.
Right.
And then when you're no longer into it, they don't care anymore because they no longer are getting the stuff that they wanted from your blog. Whereas if somebody develops a rapport with you and is reading you or listening to your podcast because they like you as a person, then you've pretty much got a reader or a listener for life. Because they're always going to check in on what you're doing.
Well, and that's just one of sort of the hallmarks of good community building too. But I found, I getting a little controversial here, but the WoW community, at least back in the day, was the worst for that. When you stopped talking totally about WoW, like it was like you just got the cold shoulder. There was no use for you at all.
So that was a harsh reality check for me too, because when I stopped blogging about WoW, literally overnight, I lost half my readership. And on Twitter, I lost over half of the people following me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, this is insane. I'm still the same person, guys.
It's true, but if you're not, I made the statement on my blog a little while ago, and some people took issue with it, but that WoW players are not necessarily MMO players. And I don't mean anything bad at WoW players with that, but I think they aren't necessarily, they don't want to be part of the greater community. They just want to do WoW things.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a 100% true statement. And for no other reason than a lot of the people that are in the guild or have been in the guild that I started back on day one have never really played anything other than WoW, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they may piddle around with this or that, but that's the first game they ever played seriously, and I went through a lot of struggle in trying to... Because all I ever really wanted, honestly, was when I got tired of WoW, I wanted to move the people with me.
Right.
And there's a certain amount of inertia around that one game that people don't want to ever leave it. Or they're not interested in anything else. So there was just... I had to come to the realization that there's a group of my friends that I only get to play with if I happen to be playing WoW. And that's okay. Like, I know they're always going to be there waiting on me in that game. And, they were a stable community. And that was one of the biggest draws of me going back to WoW, is because I knew I would have this stable community still there. Whereas Final Fantasy XIV, the big draw there is that I finally started to build a similar stable community there.
And every blogger ever is there.
I know, which is insane. And it's like, I'm not even recruiting anymore, and people keep coming. Like, every day we're inviting somebody new to the guild.
It's great, though. And, it's only going to get better as we lead up to Heavensward and people get more excited for it. And Final Fantasy just has a lot of buzz right now.
Well, and part of it's been that they're releasing content every month and a half, something like that. And it's just a constant trickle of stuff to do. And they have amazing holidays. I haven't participated in the new Easter one, but it looks hilarious.
Oh, I did it last night. It's great.
Yeah, it looks wonderful.
Into a Spriggan and get to run around clutching an egg. It's amazing.
Oh my god. Mm-hmm. I love the Spriggans.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. And one of the things I didn't think about Final Fantasy before I started playing Final Fantasy XIV in particular is I didn't realize what a nice sense of humor it has. I was thinking it was going to be like somber Final Fantasy kind of drama, but it's got a real sparkle to it and a real sense of humor, and it's not afraid to do broad winks at the players. So and I just find that so charming.
So what I have heard, and I've kind of seen this commented a couple times, is that apparently the Japanese version is not like that at all. It is more serious and somber. But Koji, the guy who was responsible for doing a lot of the translation, interjected his own sense of humor into this game and named all the things after puns. And that's part of what makes this game so great to me is all the awesome puns.
Oh, yeah.
But apparently it has worked so well in the North American version that he is helping them do some of the content for Heavensward in the Japanese version as well, because they're trying to interject that sense of humor into everything. Wow. And the dialogue here is really good. Like, it's worth reading.
Oh yeah, no, it really is. It's one of the few games where I will actually read the quests.
So how far along in the story are you now?
I hit level 42 last night, so I'm getting up there, but still kind of far behind.
Yeah, but so the only thing that's weird about it is, so at 50 you'll hit the end of the original story, but as hard as it might be to believe, there's probably 1.5 times the original content after 50.
Excellent.
It's a lot of content. Like, it's a lot of content every time they added a patch.
Right. Oh, they've added so much, even just as long as I've been playing the game, slowly leveling, and I feel like I better hurry so I can do some of it before Heavensward.
Yeah. I have no doubt that all of our current crop of characters that are leveling will at least hit 50 on one character before Heavensward.
I think so. I have 3 months or something, so I can probably manage 8 more levels in 3 months.
So, I haven't really been paying attention. Is Vajra much farther along than you?
We're about the same level. We're doing the story quests together, but leveling at our own pace is sort of our arrangement. But we're mostly keeping up with each other.
Well, as always, when you guys need something, holler.
Oh, I will, definitely. I think we're.
It seems like that's the other thing that makes me happy is groups are constantly forming that I'm not involved in, and that was something that never happened in WoW. Mm-hmm. And when it never really happened in Rift either. In the various incarnations of Rift I've been, there were a few people that were organizers, and if they weren't on, nothing happened. Everybody just quietly queued by themselves. But it seems like here, people are constantly mixing in and helping with various things, and that makes me happy.
Well, and everyone's so nice in the Dungeon Finder, too. I won't do random groups in other MMOs because they scare and concern me. But everyone has been so nice every time I've done one in Final Fantasy that I have no problem healing a random bunch of people.
Yeah. And that was really the refreshing thing coming back to the game, is when we left, there were still a lot of players from other MMOs, touristing in the game at that point. Mm-hmm. And in the time we were gone, all of those people slowly left, and all that was left was the people who really cared about the game. And I feel like they've also done a really good job of social engineering niceness in the way that they have the rewards and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, yeah. I've been really impressed solidly across the board. I have not yet, and I know that's out there and it'll happen, but I have not yet come across an unpleasant person. At the very worst, they've just been quiet, which is a fine situation.
You run into them sometimes in the 24-man LFR-like dungeons,
Oh, sure,
but
yeah.
honestly, like, the worst person here is a nice person in another game.
Right. Look, it's
Yeah,
gonna be better
I've
than
never
that.
once had my sexuality or my religious background or my racial history questioned in a dungeon here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I did my legendary cloak in Pandaria entirely through running LFR, which was a lot of LFR. And by the end of it, like I wouldn't even look at the chat. Like I just don't care. Just put on a movie, pretend it's 23 other robots and just do it. Just terrible, terrible community. Holy cow.
Yeah.
But
But,
somehow, I think maybe because it's older, or I don't know, somehow Final Fantasy, it feels like it's the old school. It's where all the old school players are going at the moment.
well, part of it too is the fact that while it kind of looks like WoW at times, it doesn't really have any lineage tied to WoW. Like, so many games are designed in a way so that they reflect the things that happened in WoW, and then they build upon them. Like, Rift is like the best possible version of WoW UI wise.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this game, it reminds me of what would happen if somebody saw someone playing WoW but never actually played it themselves and then went off and created their own game. So,
Right.
not understanding any of the things about WoW, they kind of made it look pretty like WoW and have some UI elements like WoW, but underneath the covers, nothing's like WoW. And I think it's because it ties deep lineage back to Final Fantasy XI, which in turn was basically the Japanese version of EverQuest.
Right.
Like, it was hardcore EverQuest back then.
Right.
So I feel like you have a lineage back to a much older era of game.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. You really do. Yeah, no, it definitely has that feel. Plus, I think the longer global timer cooldown, I think it makes combat go at a slightly slower pace than other MMOs, and that kind of appeals to me.
Everything feels more strategic than
Yes.
mash buttons as fast as you can.
Yes, exactly. I find particularly with healing, there's more thought about, resource management and stuff and things that I haven't thought about in a while. Because in most games, it's just, spam my AoE healing key as fast as possible.
Well, and the other thing we've talked about a couple times on AgriChat is the game is really not that big of a fan of random chance.
Mm-hmm.
That things happen in a repeatable, predictable order that require you to perform quickly and with skill, but there's not a situation of, well, RNG screwed me. We got a bad combination of colors, or we got a bad combination of, abilities, and we're just dead. Let's reset.
Right.
It's all based on a pattern, and if you know the pattern, it may force you to memorize it, but it's all predictable. It's like, and there's very few things that are there are a few things that are absolute. This will wipe your party. This one thing will wipe your party, but it's not unpredictable. Like, it's coming, and those usually have really long cast times. For example, like the nails on a Freet.
Right.
You have a really long time to DPS down those nails.
Right.
So, yeah, you've been given plenty of warning that it's going to wipe your party if you didn't do this. So it feels like, yeah, it's a much more strategic experience.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to get up to 50 and come on a couple of raids with you guys.
It'll be fun. Like, I think we're honestly going to have plenty of people to spawn an additional raid.
Ooh, awesome.
Because we've been looking at the numbers, and if we even keep half of the people that want to do raid content, we'll still have plenty to do 2 8-man groups a lot of the time.
Well, it's going to be really good. Judging by the fights that I've gone through so far, I think I'm going to enjoy raiding.
It's some of the best raid content I've ever seen. And I mean, Blackrock Foundry right now that I'm raiding in WoW is really good. It's like probably some of the best raid content that WoW's ever done, but it's just a different style of raiding.
Right, yeah, exactly. I think I'm ready for it. A little more old school.
So we've been rattling for a while here. I don't know how long exactly we've run, but I think we've run quite a while.
I think it's been a while.
Yeah, so there's a couple questions I'd like to ask everyone that agrees to do this thing.
Okay.
What are you afraid of? Like, and this could be in any context. Like, what scares you? And it could be like literally jump scares, or scares as a society, or you can place your context in any way you want.
Ooh, that's a very good question to ask people. I don't like phone calls. I'm scared of making phone calls. I have a thing about the phone.
I will avoid making a phone call at all. I mean, like, I will text somebody promptly. I will email somebody promptly. But man, it better be life and death if I need to use that phone.
Oh, I know. And if my phone is ringing, I mean, my family knows by now. Don't call me if you need to get in touch with me because I won't answer. I just don't like it. Thank God that pizza places have switched to online ordering so I can start eating pizzas again.
Like, yesterday, I had a phone call from GoDaddy because all of my domains are still through GoDaddy because I'm too lazy to move them off.
Right.
And they're doing the smarmy, we see that X number of domains are coming free. Would you like to, give us 5 years worth of money for these things? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but I told you guys never to call me. And I literally had. I told them 3 or 4 times, never call me. Only call me if something is critically wrong.
Right. If something is on fire, you can call me.
Yeah, and the guy was just taken aback by that. I'm like, no, seriously, I don't ever want to hear from you by the phone. I have email. All of my domains are set to auto-renew. I check the credit card information periodically to make sure it's right. Don't ever call me. I don't ever want to hear from you. I don't want to hear about your product offer. I don't want to hear about anything. I just don't want to talk to you. You perform a service, and I am happy you perform a service, but I don't want to talk.
No. Part of I'm trying to drum up some freelance writing work right now, and part of that involves calling people to talk about their projects. And I have to I pretend that I'm doing, maybe it's like a podcast about how I can help your writing services because phones are not something I'm comfortable with at all.
Well, and I don't know what it is, but it's just the phone for me.
Yeah.
Like, I will happily rattle on TeamSpeak for hours, and I don't mind going to someone in person and talking to them. And I've done press conferences. Like, I've had to get up in front of a bunch of strangers and announce a product or announce a thing, and that doesn't faze me either. It's just something about the phone, and I don't know what it is.
I think it's the lack of visual cues, I think. I can't figure out what the other person's thinking, and I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's my fear. That's what I'm scared of.
Okay. So, the flip side of this question is, what gives you hope? And again, place it in any context that you want.
Wow. That's another good question. Oh gosh, lots of things come to mind. Ever since I started my first blog in 1999, so really, really old school, early stages of blogs, there was like 35 of us. It was a tiny thing. And back then, and to this day, I have been such a big believer in the internet as being a way of letting people communicate and speak, whether it's podcasts or blogs or videos or whatever, and getting that, the individual opinion of people like you and I. And I love seeing that keep going on. People, as you say, have declared blogging dead over and over again. And it's not dead. It keeps on going. And maybe it'll become streams or videos. But I love the fact that we are still, someone in their house with $15 they can spend on a microphone can make a podcast. And God bless the internet for that.
Yeah. Honestly, that gives me so much hope that, it is so easy to do this. And it's really cheap. Like, I mean, I honestly... The other day, I wrote a thing about Patreon, and I was actually adding up my own costs, and I was shocked at how little I'm actually paying. And I have a lot of hosting. I have like 3 different web hosts. I have a bunch of stuff that I'm paying for, and I was actually shocked at how reasonable it was for everything that I do. So it's really cheap to get started in this sort of thing.
It is. I mean, you can set up a free WordPress.com site and be typing your first blog post for nothing in minutes, literally. It's just amazing how much easier it is. And I think there is a problem. There's been a lot of discussion on Twitter lately about podcasts in particular and sort of the expectation of a professionally produced show from, folks like us who are at home with, microphones we bought with our pocket change.
Yeah.
And there is a problem with, I think, while NPR shows are really popular right now, they also might be setting people up with unrealistic expectations for amateur shows. But that doesn't mean that people shouldn't do it. Get out there. If you want to make a podcast, make one this afternoon. Grab your microphone, start recording.
Well, and I feel like, honestly, it is there's an uncanny valley there with the amount of quality. Like, sure, NPR they literally have a recording engineer in a professional booth, and then they have a sound designer that comes in afterwards and, puts all the audio and such in there as well. So that's unrealistic. But I feel like you can produce something pretty close to NPR on your own if you really want to.
Sure. We just had a new podcast join the TGen network, and it's extremely professionally made. The How Is This Movie site podcast. And if you listen to that, that could be an NPR show.
Yeah. AgroChat could never be an NPR show.
I will say, I think Cat Context has the editing that it could be an NPR show, but we also swear and shout about Dead or Alive a lot, so it could not from that front.
Yeah. I do want to talk about one last thing before I let you go.
Okay.
Because I've always wondered, and I've never asked. So, we all know you as Liore.
Mm-hmm.
I've played multiple games with you. I have never seen you use that character name ever. So, where does Liore come from, and why did you decide to start using it as a blog handle?
Liore was the name of my character in EverQuest, and I just made it up on the spot because I thought it sounded nice and would be easy to type. And the reason I haven't used it since then is because I also called my character in World of Warcraft Liore, and it was the first character I ever made, and I played her as my main for the however many years I played WoW, too many years, and that's Liore to me, is that character. I can't make another character because she already exists. So as a game character, there can only be one. Okay. But I've moved a little more towards using my own name in places. I think partially just because it's a slightly political thing, because I think women necessarily don't feel safe using their real names on the internet, particularly when writing about games. And I was like, screw that. I'm using my name. People who don't like that can bite me. So that was why I did it.
Yep. I keep thinking one of these days that I will actually get to meet a Liore character, but
no,
we've never played on the same server in WoW.
No, although I kind of wish I had named my Final Fantasy character Liore, because they don't have character notes in the game, and I don't know who anyone is, except for Murph Murphington. I know who that is.
Well, and, he's kind of a character in Free Company chat anyway, so it's not really hard to tell who he is.
Murph is a character everywhere he goes.
Yeah. I honestly, the whole Bell thing is kind of lame, because, I have a bunch of characters that are Bell something.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily the case back in World of Warcraft. I had, lots of different characters. I had, I used to have, these 8 or 9 names that I would recycle between games. And they would always, a specific character would always be a certain kind of character. So right. I kind of had that thing going on where, if I had a ranger, it was always going to be called this or that. And then I started farming out my characters to other raids. So if a friend, back in the early days of Argent Dawn, the server we played World of Warcraft on, all of the raid leaders knew each other.
Right.
So if someone was having trouble pulling together a raid, I would oftentimes say, well, I can bring my hunter or I can bring my paladin to help you guys out. Well, I'd join their TeamSpeak, and people would start referring to me as that character that they knew me as.
Mm-hmm.
So they would start calling me Exeter instead of Belgast, or they would start calling me Loden, or whatever character I happen to be on, because they don't know what my main is. These are just people in another braid. And it felt so weird to be called other names other than Bell. just because I'd gotten so used to everybody calling me Belle.
Right.
So I figured the only way I could stop that from ever happening is just to start naming every single character Belle. So I don't have to learn to get used to being called other things.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I find it really confusing when someone calls me by my character name in any game and not Liore. So really, I should actually name my character Liore in Final Fantasy. So we'll see. Maybe in the expansion.
Well, they do offer renames.
They do, and the Fantasia stuff is cheap too, so I can be all kinds of races. I can't wait.
I love that Fantasia is as cheap as it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was always one of the things that frustrated me about World of Warcraft is that race changes and all that stuff were so expensive. Because, you may change over to this new race and decide, nope, I don't really like it. This feels too weird. Like, I started off in Final Fantasy as a Highlander, which are the really angry-looking humans.
Right.
And the main reason why I went to Lalafell was because anytime I played, like, my Bard, you've seen the Bard outfit with, like, all the spangles and the...
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, it looks really weird on an angry human male. And it just didn't fit. Like, I was an awesome-looking warrior or a dragoon, but, yeah, no, Bard was horrible looking. Whereas as a Lalafell, I can wear anything I want and I still look adorable.
It's true. Lalas are always adorable. Yeah, and for a game where you only have one character, which, by the way, love that model that appeals to my play so much.
I always thought I was an altaholic until this game came along and proved me that I don't care about any other character. I just want to do everything on one.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, it's great. But so the fact that you do everything on one character, it makes it extra nice that it's really easy to change their appearance and race. And something like WoW, where it's like $40, it feels like they're trying to convince you not to do it. Whereas this game, they're like, yeah, go ahead, be a Lala for a week. That's fine.
Well, and what always frustrated me about World of Warcraft is I'm a programmer. You were literally flipping a variable in a database.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, there may be some other queries, but you can literally run a query and run this query against the database, and you swapped out their race. And
right.
I don't know why it's so expensive. It makes no sense.
No. I mean, they clearly they're trying to not let people do it that often. I'm not really sure why. I much prefer the Final Fantasy thing. I have a vial of Fantasia in my bags, and I'm waiting. I will turn.
Are you going to be a dragon?
Different. I might just for fun. Yeah, they look pretty cool.
It'll be interesting to see how many people shift to dragon.
We'll be like half dragons and half Lalas.
Well, like right now we're like Lalas and cats.
It's true. I'm a human, so I don't know what I'm doing. Clearly,
and then we have some femme rose, because female rows are amazing.
That's true.
Because you gotta, Merle Wib is amazing. Like,
yes.
I don't know if you've done much where you encountered Merle Wib, but she's awesome.
Bit. Yeah, all the characters are pretty awesome. Excuse me, I have to go play Final Fantasy now.
Okay, well, thank you very much for hanging out with me and recording this Belfolk Stuff thing, and I will get it all edited up and online, and this will be the April episode.
Well, very cool. Thanks for having me on.
So one of the things I usually fail miserably at on the Belfolk Stuff podcast is having people plug their stuff. So would you plug your stuff?
Oh, I so would. So you can find my blog at lioreblog.com. It's LIORE blog.com. That's also where podcast number 1, Cat Context, is. I'm on MMORPG.com. I write a weekly column about the blogosphere. And also, by the way, I hate that word blogosphere, but it's so appropriate. So
it's prevalent. Like, I can't come up with another word for it.
No, there isn't a better word, so I think we're stuck with it. And you can find me on Twitter at Liores, Liores.
And you are awesome as always, and hopefully everyone enjoyed learning some more about you. And we didn't actually talk about cats at any point, which is bizarre.
It is bizarre. My cat has been asleep this whole time, so...
Mine has been banging on the door trying to come in, so I should probably let them in.
Go let them in.
Anyway, see everyone next time I decide to record one of these, and thanks again for participating. See y'all later.